Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk about a big NAS, I want to talk about a giant NAS, I want to talk about a monster NAS, I want to talk about a NAS that, much like Loch Ness, I didn't think existed. Today I want to talk about the Synology HD6500, a 60-bay rack mount NAS solution. But before I go any further, come sit by the fire and let me tell you a quick story. The year was 2019. I was in Germany visiting Synology's regional office there. I was looking at lots of different bits. They were doing their big launch event and talking a lot more about this promised DSM-7 thing. And then after that, they were talking about a lot of their solutions. And tucked in the corner of the area was this monster, this rack mount concept solution. It was a 4U enormous chassis. It was mostly hollow, and they were showing about something they were looking into. It was not guaranteed, and at the time it was called the HD6400. I talked about it here on the channel on an older video. That system, when they were showing it off, I have talked about it and referred to it in videos many times, but I've been doing this game for a number of years. I've been in data for much longer, and all the time I've worked in servers and hard drives and data in general, I've kind of always got this voice in the back of my head whenever I go to a trade show, whenever I go to a big event, where I look at something really cool, and this little voice, this evil little man appears in my brain, normally looks like Eddie the Web Guy. He rocks up and goes, "Oh, it's great, but it'll never get released." Because so many products I talk about either end up as vaporware, either get shown off at CES and then disappear into nothing, because this industry can be fickle. The amount of time that goes into developing a solution can often take longer than that solution is current, then becomes standard, then becomes out of date. That is tech for you. Synology is not immune to this. There's already at least two solutions I can tell you right now that never saw the light of day. The network solution, the SG1000, not the Sega Master System, by the way, don't bother Googling that. That was a network interface device there that never really, we saw it at a trade show, and it was kind of shown in a few different regions, but that was about it. Another one was the first iteration of the DS1620XS before it became the 21XS. That system didn't originally have 10 GB. It had four 2.5 gigabit Ethernet ports. That was in like 2019, and they were showing off 2.5 GBE back then, something that never really materialized. Oh, at least maybe, hopefully soon, who knows, fingers crossed. So you can understand why over the years, when that HD6400 was first shown at a number of different events and taken around to different areas of the world to show it off as a concept piece, afterwards Synology said nothing on this solution, and unfortunately the little voice got louder and louder saying absolutely no chance, which is why I was so double, if not treble, chuffed that this system is seeing the light of day. But it's worth highlighting there have been some changes since the original concept that was shown off in all those different regions. Also, it's worth highlighting, if you came to this thinking, does it run Plex or can it run Crysis? This is a monster NAS. This isn't mainstream. You are talking minimum 5 figures. You are talking about a NAS that you're going to need. It's not just a car job, it's a truck job. It's massive. So let's talk about it. This system is 4U in height, and then straight away when you hear 4U, what that means is it is a server that's going to occupy 4 rungs in a rack mount, the little bays there. Now, 4U sounds like a lot in rack mount terms. Every other Synology rack mount they have is either 1, 2 or 3U in height, all the way up to 24 bays of storage. So a 4U sounds bigger than those, but at the same time, as I said, it's a 24 bay. This is 60 bays. The way they're able to achieve this 60 bay solution to fit in a 4U rack mount area is by utilizing a vertical injection method. All 60 bays are faced up in 4 rows there. Now, these bays are all racked up, and the full depth of this system, only half of it is the bays. The bays are locked into the front, so presumably if you've got it loaded into a sliding rack mount there, you're going to be able to access the bays, but you're not going to be able to fully access the whole thing unless it's significantly weighted. Now, these bays, these 60 bays here, again, presumably you don't have to fully populate it, but if you're going to buy a 6 bay, go nuts. It has SATA and SAS connectivity there for all of those storage bays. This is 100% going to be a system that can only be utilized to its fullest extent with Synology hard drives there, at least as far as compatibility and support from the brand is going to be. This is an incredibly specialist system. When I say specialist, I mean not like when you see the 4S 21XS or something like that, or the 22XS, and go, oh, high-end business. This is more like the DVA 3221. This is more like the UC 3200. This is a very tailored solution. And, you know, the target audience for this isn't people looking at warm storage, although it can be used as combined storage, of course. This has got cold storage written all over it, and not just because of the primary storage. We'll tuck onto that in a little bit. Now, the CPU has changed since the original concept that was shown off, and this system is arriving with 2 CPUs inside, and each of those CPUs is an Intel Xeon Silver. It's the 4210R, a 10-core processor there. A 2.4 gigahertz per core that can be burst up to 3.2 gigahertz. Again, there are 2 of them inside there, but this is not a redundant system in that regard. This isn't like the unified controller, it's active-active. This is a system that's all built in, that you just have all of those resources. You can take advantage of network failover and stuff like that, but this isn't a system that is designed in the same architecture as the UC series there, the unified controller. Now, that powerful CPU rated around 16,000 on CPU benchmark there is incredibly cutting edge. Yes, it's not like a 2022 gen CPU there, but generally server grade CPUs, this is pretty good age versus deployment there. In terms of memory, the system by default arrives with 64 gig of RDIMM, DDR4 RDIMM ECC memory, as one would expect, but it can be upgraded to a staggering half a gig, that's half a terabyte, that's 512 gigabytes of memory across 8 slots. That's 64 gig per slot, which again, so again, we're talking a serious amount of throughput there internally inside this system. Now, we don't know yet if there are any SSD bays in there in terms of NVMe for caching, or if it has dedicated bays on it. I will say that the original concept device seemed to have SATA bays built into it. Whether that is something that's going to be fully realised once this hits full availability, or we get a more formal launch on this. But I will say that that amount of throughput potential inside already, with the 60 bays and that CPU memory combo there, you're going to get some insane throughput. So how does that translate externally? Well, it translates in a number of ways. First and foremost, the system has 2 10GBE ports by default. It's also got 3 1GB Ethernet ports. Don't care, throw them away. It also has out-of-bound OOB built into it, as we're seeing more and more in Synology's business-level solutions there, for a dedicated direct portal into the system, generally via SSH for its most convenience to the techie and admins. One thing I will add with this is it has 4 PCIe upgrade slots. The gen and architecture of those haven't been explained, but they're almost certainly going to be at the very least 3x8, but possibly even better when you look at fibre channel and stuff like that. Synology have their own range of 25 GBE cards now to consider, as well as multi-port 10Gs to go in conjunction with the 2 that's already on the system there. But one of the really cool things about this device is its expandability, something that generally, when we talk about most systems, we get a bit bored when we talk about expandability, because expandability is so far in the future. But when it comes to a system like this, you wouldn't look at a 60 bay unless you're already slightly caring about storage expandability to start with. Now, on this system, alongside it, Synology are rolling out a new expansion chassis known as the RX6022SAS. Take a guess how many bays it's got. That's right, it's a 60 bay expansion. And this system can be connected with 4 of those. All of them for you in depth. That means for 20 bays of your rack mount cabinet there, you can have this and 4 of those 60 bay expansions connected via proprietary SAS to the rear. This system can have in total connectivity of up to 300 bays. That's a lot of storage, and remember, we are talking SATA SAS drives there. We are talking dedicated 10G controllers and PCIe upgradability built into it by default. That's a tremendous amount of throughput. Synology was stating figures in the 6,000s in terms of performance, but they never really articulated what that was utilising, and I think a system like this could definitely exceed that number with the right configuration. So I think those numbers they stated there were based on a much more modest setup there for at least a fact of realism. Now, what do we know about release? What do we know about price? sod all, to be frank. One, because Synology are not going to rush this. They've not rushed it up to this point. I'm just pleased that this is actually something we're going to see, and it was never vaporware. Secondly, in terms of pricing, this is an incredibly specialized solution. And although Synology, in the some of the documentation I've seen, again listed on different websites out in the East, has indicated that this system can, serve as part of a wider warm and cold storage setup. This has got cold storage written through and through, notwithstanding the insane noise it's almost certainly going to make. On top of that, just that sheer scale of storage and the expandability that's built into a BTRFS system like this. Yes, you've got access to DSM and all the different advantages and disadvantages afforded to the end user who want to take advantage of it or its third party and all that stuff in the background. But still, nonetheless, this is a tremendously huge storage capable system and pretty much universally unique in the NAS market right now. To put it into perspective, when we talked about Synology in the last 6 months, we've talked more and more about how Synology seems to be vibing towards creating a new space in the hard storage market there. They kind of graduated to the very top of the NAS market there, and now they've looked at the EMCs, they've looked at the NetApps and gone, okay, you're up there, but there's a lovely space here that we can occupy just underneath and really flourish within that. And a system like this has got that written all over it. But this is everything we know about the HD6500 thus far. And again, anything more we learn, I'll let you know. And there is a full article linked in the description where we go through it in a little bit more detail. So check that out. But otherwise, click like if you've enjoyed the video. As always, it helps me understand what I'm doing right and what I'm doing wrong. Click subscribe as more information becomes available on new releases from all the brands, as well as all the comparisons, the reviews, and more. And other than that, if you are looking for help on your particular setup, whether you're a home or business user, techies can be pricey. Why not take advantage of the free, genuinely free advice section linked in the description, where it's made by two humans, me and Eddie the web guy. We'll answer your queries, give you the best advice we possibly can, while at the same time, there is donate buttons. Use them, ignore them. It's up to you. We just like doing it between other projects. It keeps our heads in the game. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.